Hello there, this is going to be a quick progress update on the Fall of the Republic mod for Star Wars Empire at War Forces of Corruption. As I've been talking about in my preview playthroughs for the mod on the channel, we're approaching completion for a good chunk of the mod, and so today, I want to go over what that means it's done, what's left to do, and when we hope to start the beta process. First off, what's done? The basic setup for all the factions is done, including all the units except for one Republic unit, the BARC Speeder, and two CIS units being the Captor and Lupus frigates. This includes all fighters, hero assets, and other ships we'll be doing for 0.5, where the goal was essentially to have about 18 heroes per side. There are a few heroes we've shifted from 0.5 to the 1.0 release and vice versa, but overall we have a pretty decent starting roster for ground, space, and heroes for the first build. And I do want to emphasize that this is just the roster for the first build, version 0.5. Just like what we've been doing with Imperial Civil War, we intend to continue to not just overhaul existing content with better models and skins as they get done, but also to flesh out and expand the rosters more. The goal with 0.5 was to get the core rosters for each faction finished, with all the more iconic ships and vehicles. But as we go, we'll be doing more supporting that, including more Planet Defense Forces, Judicials, planet-specific units for worlds like Umbara and Naboo, things like Mandators, the Auxilia, Maelstrom, etc. There's a lot of stuff that we can still add, but we feel people will get more enjoyment out of the mod being able to actually play it with the core of what the factions were, than waiting for months and months for extra units that we can just as easily add as we go. We're also working on things like Clone Legion skins, which Mr. Puerto Rican is working on in particular. We'll probably include one or two in the initial release, but we haven't done a proper announcement of how that's going to work, so more on that will be talked about later. Like with Imperial Civil War, things like new units and legions and that sort of unit edit will be easy to plug in with regular updates, so you generally won't have to be waiting months or years between releases with that kind of content. The setup for the first Galactic Conquest is also basically done, though we still need to develop a few extra ones. Like with Imperial Civil War, we intend to have a variety of sizes and scopes for maps so that people will be able to play and enjoy the mod regardless of what their system strength is. Galactic Conquest fleshing out, though, is one of the two main things that remains to be done before we can start the beta. We aim to have a decent set of story events for each side to start with so the galaxy feels a little bit more dynamic, including the basic government mechanics for each faction, which we'll be talking about soon, but those are the core of what we still have to do. The second main thing that is left is that we need to finish working on the divergence of certain files from Imperial Civil War, our post-Endor mod. As you may have seen if you've been watching the preview playthroughs on the channel, there's still things like menu screens and other GUI elements that give it away as sharing a file system with Imperial Civil War. This will change by release, but it's also something we're not super concerned about having done by the time the beta starts, since it's usually simple asset swaps and doesn't need a huge amount of testing once that happens. That brings us back to what's probably been the most common question since we announced the mod was coming back. When will it release? Keep in mind though, anything I say here is absolutely subject to change. If we need to delay it, we will delay it. We'll be following a similar release structure to what we did with Imperial Civil War 2.3. Our hope is to start internal testing with the Testing Task Force, which is a group of users that we specifically selected within the Discord server, within the next month or so while things are still being finalized. Then, we hope to open all testing to the entire Discord server, since that's where all feedback is best organized, on October 31st. If that all goes smoothly, we will hopefully have a public release of version 0.5 on December 5th. Whenever we do a testing process that's centralized on a specific platform though, there's always complaints from people that they don't use that platform, so they don't get to play it, or that we're being unfair in some way by doing that. The entire point of the beta, however, is not so that people get to play the mod early, or to distribute to as many people as possible. This isn't like a AAA game with a beta done for a mix of testing server stability, marketing, or final polish. We are trying to get and organize feedback in the most efficient way possible for the purpose of polishing the mod as much as we can before an actual release. If we're spending all of our time on the actual beta deployment on different platforms, especially platforms with no good medium for discussion or feedback like the YouTube channel, Mod Database, then it kind of ruins the point for doing a beta in the first place, because that's time we can't spend actually working on the mod. The 0.5 release, when it happens, will be available on both Steam and Mod Database for the Steam version, the disc version, and the GOG versions of the game, as long as the non-Steam versions are able to run it in a stable manner, since the non-Steam versions don't have a lot of the updates that the Steam versions do, which is why Imperial Civil War hasn't released for those versions yet, or in version 2.3. So again, if you would like to take part in the beta when it starts, that will be happening ideally on October 31st on the Discord server. There are links in the description to that, and hope you are looking forward to the mod. Otherwise, if you don't want to join the Discord server or don't want to take part in the beta because the mod won't be done yet, then hopefully we'll be releasing on December 5th. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I will see you next time.